Hello. There we go. Hello, and welcome to Sass Bites. A little preemptive start there. This is your weekly bite of Sass during lunch break. I can remember this tagline, I swear. I am your host, Mike Godbolt. You can follow us there, me at Mike Godbolt, or specifically Sass Bites at Sass Bites. You can catch the previous 73 episodes at youtube.com/sassbites. Thanks for listening. Today we are taking a little bit of a turn back to Sass, as crazy as it is. We've been going through visual regression and front-end architecture and all sorts of stuff in the last few weeks. And I want to kind of bring it back and touch on a new topic. Well, not really new, maybe just more new for me because I haven't dove into it yet. And I want to take a chance to do that, which is talk about Libsass. If you're not familiar with Libsass, it is the original Sass was written in Ruby and it worked well, and it was a great tool to do what they wanted to, but the speed was just never there. Ruby isn't the fastest language, especially when compared to what they've done with now Libsass. So basically, Libsass is a C port, so like the C programming language, which is basically what all the other programming, like higher level PHP and Ruby and those kind of things, are built on top of. So it's kind of going down, not quite to binary or machine code or something, but going down to a much lower level that will run a lot faster. It's taken a lot of work, but the speed increases are certainly awesome. And there's a lot of people that have been able to jump ship already and move over to Libsass. And I wanted to walk you through setting up a Libsass project, especially or specifically in Grunt. And then kind of what that means. Talk about some version stuff that we didn't have to deal with typical Ruby Sass. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump into it, and we're going to build a real quick grunt Sass setup. So let's bring up our tools. I should probably got this set up beforehand. We're gonna do this right from the beginning. So first we need a directory for this. Get bigger than that, it goes outside my screen. So we need a directory for it. So I'll just call it Libsass demo. No spaces would be good. All right, so we're in here. So the first thing we need to do, this is a grunt project, so we're going to do npm init. And this is going to walk us through creating our package.json file. I'm just going to go through it because I really don't care at this point. Yes. So we now have our package.json. Next thing we want to do is we need grunt, because that's always awesome. So to install grunt, we just do an npm install grunt --f save dev. That puts it into our project. At this point, hopefully, if you're following along, you should have grunt CLI installed locally. If you don't, that is grunt install or npm install g grunt CLI, and that installs basically these command line tools locally in your system so you can use them. But since I already have those installed, I'm just going to install grunt. That actually puts grunt into this npm project. All right, so that's in there. We can now do grunt stuff. Let's go ahead and install grunt Sass. So we're going to get to kind of this whole chain of events of what grunt Sass is made of. But first thing we need to do is just get it installed. npm install grunt Sass. So now if we look at our package.json, we're going to have a couple of dependencies in there. And if we look at our node modules, we're going to have some our nodes in there. Node modules here is grunt Sass, package.json. We've got dependencies. All right, so we've got that set up and ready to go. The next thing I want to do is make sure I've got a Sass file. So we're going to make a Sass file. And I'm going to open that up and put some real basic Sass in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to basically create a map that has one color in it, but it's a map. And then I'm going to map get that color into a div so I can show that variables work and maps work and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so we've got some Sass to compile. So the next thing I need to do is I do need to set up grunt to work with first I need to set up grunt. How about that? So we're going to create our grunt file, .js, and I'm going to paste in kind of our standard generic grunt file. This is obviously a talk for another day of exactly what all this stuff is. We have our standard module exports, our grunt init config, and this is really the only item we have in here is Sass. We're going to load our tasks, and then we're going to set Sass is running as a default. So anytime we run grunt, it's automatically going to run Sass for us. There's lots more stuff we can do with watchers and that kind of stuff, which is pretty standard if you've used grunt or if you use grunt at all, and really has nothing to do with libsass. But this is it. We've got Sass. Diffs, we just need, we can have a couple different basically sets, targets, I think they're called. And really the only option we need in here is files. We need to know what's our input file and what's our output file. So here's our input, there's our output. I know it's backwards, it's really kind of weird, but that's how it goes. So with that done, we can run grunt. Cross our fingers that live demo works. And look at that. So we've got our map, we've got a div, and our finished output is a div with a background color of blue. So awesome. It looks like I probably shouldn't have that as a string. You know, life, how it goes. Run it again. Hey, that's better. Background color blue. So we've now used libsass, or the actual C port, running through node Sass, running through grunt Sass, running through this whole stack, compiling for us. If you had a really long project here, really big, huge project that took like several seconds to compile normally using Ruby, you'd find that time dramatically cut down in libsass. So that's it. That's setting up grunt Sass using libsass. It's pretty straightforward. I was kind of expecting a little bit of a longer process. This was actually quite simple, and I'm very thankful for the simplicity of that. So what I want to do is I want to give a quick rundown of what all this means, because one of the questions always comes up is libsass is, and we'll start at libsass. Sorry, typo. Libsass is not caught up with Ruby Sass as far as feature parity. There's a great, I'll bring that up. There is a great compatibility chart that Hugo's put together. I'll tweet this out as well, sasscompatibility.github.io. And it shows basically of all these different features, I think these are just kind of the questionable features, you know, what's been implemented in libsass. And this is the current live version. I'll kind of get to the difference of the versions right now. But this shows that libsass at the bottom here has about 50% coverage. So most of the key things work. There are a few things that don't work or are just about to come out and work soon. But for the most part, if you're running Sass without a lot of complexity, you know, you're using the basic features, libsass is going to do it for you. So let's give you a quick rundown of kind of where this whole chain of dependencies is. Because unlike Ruby, where you just had Sass, you just installed Sass and you ran Sass, and that's basically your only dependency. There's actually a bit of a chain here with dependencies, and it starts at libsass. Libsass is the core library. It's the, you know, written in C and a bunch of file extensions I do not recognize because I do not write in C. And right now they are working on, let's see, our releases. They have this is like as of a couple days ago, 8 days ago, they're working on the 3.2 release. So the most current stable release is 3.1, which is what we'll find everything is using. And they're currently working on 3.2. The main differences between the two, one of them is at root support, which is actually quite nice to be able to have that. They don't have at root currently working in 3.1 branch. 3.2 will bring that in, as well as some like app media bubbling. If you have like nested app media is like an app media in an app media, it'll concatenate those together. So I'm sure some other fixes as well. They're probably more technical than I can explain. But so 3.2 is going to be coming down the pipe really soon. All right, so that's the start of the chain. There's also one thing kind of just to note that on top of libsass, there's also this thing called sass. Here it is. And that is basically just a wrapper. Again, I don't know all the technicalness of it, but libsass is the library. And if you want to run it, you need something like sass, which is just an implementer. Again, more technical stuff you don't need to run into. You don't really run into much version-y issue with this. But to note, sass is just another, it's basically the runner for libsass. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that spend a lot of time with that could explain that a whole lot better. So the next thing that's important, at least for us running in Node, is a particular implementation. So node Sass. Now we're going to find a bunch of different implementations of Sass. I believe there's even a Ruby one that's an implementation of Libsass. I think there's a Python version. There might be a PHP version. So the idea is you've got this core language that can be implemented in all these other higher level languages. So Node being one of the more popular ones, especially if you run grunt or gulp. There's a Node Sass version that basically takes all of the stuff in Libsass and pulls it in and allows you to compile inside of Node. So talking about versions, Libsass currently in 3.1, 3.2 is coming out. All right, let's keep that in mind because in Node Sass, 2.01 is the current. Like that's current, and they're working on the 3.0 release. All right, so numbers are not matching up. We know that's kind of how it goes. The 2.0 release is running Libsass 3.1, so that's the most stable. So stable Node Sass, stable Libsass, that kind of makes sense. The 3.0 version, you guessed it, is going to be running the new release, the 3.2 release of Libsass. So again, the numbers aren't going to match up. You got to remember what we're talking about. We've got dependencies that use dependencies. So the current stable version is using the current stable version. The pre-release is using the pre-release. That's where we're at with Node Sass. But that's not the end of the story, because if we jump over to grunt Sass, we have another project that takes that Node Sass and wraps it inside of grunt to be able to have a kind of easy implementation of that. So grunt Sass, just to throw semantic versioning on for curve, is at 0.18.1. That's great. That has absolutely nothing to do with the rest of the numbers. I can tell you this version is current, and you can actually see it right here. It's currently using the 2.0 compatibility of Node Sass, which is using the 3.1 of Libsass. So basically, if you want the most latest and greatest, like bleeding edge Libsass, grunt Sass isn't going to get you there yet. So this is something kind of different that we're, especially us, the Ruby users, or just we're not as much used to, is the idea that we've got this dependency way down the chain, which is Libsass. That gets updated, that gets released, and that eventually finds its way into Node Sass. When that gets stable and gets released, it's finally going to find its way into grunt Sass. So we do have these three levels. We do have to wait for stuff to come down the chain. So for one, be patient. For two, they're all public GitHub repos. I'm sure they can use help. If you have experience in this kind of stuff, jump in there and help when new releases come out. Get those tested, get those set up, and get those running. So that's the chain we're doing. Gulp Sass is going to be extremely similar in that it's going to be pulling from Node Sass, which is pulling from Libsass, and you have that same dependency chain going down. But that's it. That's setting up Libsass using grunt Sass inside of a project. Super simple. It's just about as easy as using the Ruby version, but it's going to be a whole heck of a lot faster. But again, jump back to the Sass compatibility table. Find out if you're going to make the shift, make the jump. Are there features that are going to be supported or not? Is there features you rely on that aren't supported in Libsass yet, or are there libraries that aren't supported yet? Obviously, Compass is very rooted in Ruby right now, and there's a lot of others. I think someone asked about Breakpoint. I was just talking with Mason a couple days ago. Mason Mundos, one of the maintainers of the project, and they're very close to getting a Libsass compatible one out. I think they've got it in beta. You could probably go test it now. But there are a lot of these tools that did rely on some of those Ruby kind of fun things that they're going to have to convert to run otherwise. So just kind of keep an eye out for that. Lastly, if you do want to check out your code and see how well it works in Libsass without having to spin this whole thing up, our friends over at sapmeister, if I can spell it, are always there for you. If you open up the control panel, you can see Libsass 3.1 is right there. You don't have to worry about Node. You don't have to worry about grunt. You just get Libsass 3.1, and you know that's what it is. So you can test your code in 3.4. and test it in Libsass 3.1 and see if have any problems compiling between the two or any differences between the two. So a great playground to check that stuff out is sapmeister as well. So that's a basic intro to Libsass. I'm going to check out Node Sass. I think there's some more options I might dive into a little bit. Maybe I'll take a look at some of the current frameworks that are supported inside of it. But there's really not a whole lot to it. There's just some differences in features. If the features that are required for your project fit within Libsass, you're going to find some awesome performance gains. If not, Ruby Sass is still awesome, and it's still going to get you to where you need to get to. So anyway, that's it. So just a heads up, next week, at the end of next week actually is Camp Sass. So if you're down the Florida area, definitely check that out. Camp Sass, there we go. So Atlanta, Georgia. Sorry, not Florida. So if you're in the area, there's probably still tickets. Go and grab them. Go do it. I'm going to be talking about visual regression testing. So if you're interested in that, certainly come on by and say hi. We're trying to maybe put a Sass Bites episode together there at the conference, which would be fun. So just kind of keeping an ear out for that as well. This next week's going to be a little funky as we travel. So might have a show Thursday. We might just do it on the weekend, or it might just be next week. So you've been warned. But thanks for checking this out. That's Libsass. Get going on it. Try it out with your projects. See how it's going. It's a great, awesome project. If you don't know, right now, Libsass is basically, they're going to get it completely caught up with Sass 3.4 before any more development happens. So Libsass is completely a first-class citizen in the Sass arena. How development happens after that, they're probably still working it out. But point is, they're going to keep them in parity from here on out, which is awesome for anyone getting into Libsass, because it's going to be awesome from here on out. Great support. That's enough rambling about Libsass. Thanks for checking it out. Go play with it yourself. Toss me any questions that you have. You can go from there. Catch you later.